say before I get into any of this, anything that I ever say, if you haven't watched any of the other videos and this is your first one, anything that I ever say is based off of ancient paganism. It means that you're bringing back that knowledge and wisdom from our ancestors, thousands and thousands of years old. This is what they believed. It's not modern paganism. And a lot of those beliefs do differ. So just forewarned, you know, it's ancient paganism. It's that kind of specific ancestral belief that I'm teaching, not the modern stuff, okay? So, that being said, this is what they saw phantom shift to be. So, phantom shift is said to happen right before a physical shift. However, does it always have to happen? And that's the only time that it happens, is right before physical? No. In fact, it can happen just randomly. Usually it's extremely intense over like your entire body, if it's right before a physical shift. It's really massively intense. But, you know, and usually the other phantoms are more designated to just one part of your body. Like I might feel like the paw, the phantom paw, and it is something you physically feel, but if you look, it's just a hand. I mean, the only person that could see more than just a hand, theoretically, is somebody with a gift, an extremely visual, clairvoyant gift to be able to see auras and phantoms. Someone like that could see it, but your average person who does not have that gift can't. So if you're sitting there and you don't have that gift, I don't, and you're wondering, okay, I feel it but I don't see it, well, you're not really supposed to. Phantom shit, most people don't actually see the phantom, they just feel it. As long as you feel it, then something's happening. And that's why they call it phantom, because it feels exactly like a paw, exactly like fangs, exactly like claws, exactly like ears, exactly like a tail, and yet you see nothing. So most of the time. So that is what it is. I remember very, very young, not even knowing what phantom shift was. Like, it was a tiny little child, like 5, 6, 7, and just having almost all the time. It was almost, literally, almost constant that I had this phantom tail, and nothing was there, but you know, I felt like I had a tail. And you can, even with phantom, you can even move. You can even if it's not a part of your body, like a tail. We humans don't have tail, but you can even move the phantom tail. But it's not, it's not visible, but you can feel it move. Just like if I tell my hand to do this, and I feel that, I felt it do that. It's the same thing, except nothing's actually there. So it's really weird. It's really strange. It almost makes you wonder, is something actually there? Especially, just because you can't see it, there's some kind of energy there, or else the visionary clairvoyance wouldn't be able to see it. So something's there. But it's not quite yet enough to call it physical. You can physically feel it, you know, but it's not enough to really call it physical. Phantom shift, to get into that and to meddle in that, is actually going to help you if you ever try to do the physical shift. Physical shift is probably what we're going to talk about next after this one, but a different video. But basically, For that, you need mind body so really strong. That's why it's so rare. A lot of people that could do it, that have that in their blood, just aren't balanced enough, and it's kind of dormant. Well, phantom shift, even if it's dormant, even if you're not balanced enough to do this yet, even if you're not ready, you can do phantom shift, and that prepares you. It does, because it's a very similar light as to what you're doing. Sometimes it will just happen on its own, but if you're trying to make it happen, it's basically you go along the same way, or a very similar way you would when you're actually physically shifting or trying to physically shift. It mirrors it pretty closely. I won't say exactly, but that's just sit here, focus on one part of you. Say you want to get a phantom paw. That's the easiest thing to do, because you focus on your entire body. That's too complicated all at once. Just focus on one part of you and see if you can phantom shift that. It actually helps if I turn my quote paw in a way that a paw would actually be. Okay, I never would have a paw like this, would I? So if I can turn it into a way that a paw would actually be, which this is close enough, it doesn't have to be perfect, it's close enough, and you just sit there and you're trying to open that door, you're trying to make that hand turn into a paw, at least a phantom paw. So either way, you imagine it just kind of changing into a paw, and you'll start to feel, when it gets really strong, you'll start to feel that the pads of your fingers start to feel really big and heavy, even though they look the same, like a paw. The digits start to get a little stiff, not as nimble and flexible, more like an animal and less like a human's hand. And right now I'm actually starting it. Right now, no one can see this, so it's fine. I mean, the only person that can see this is of magic anyway, so even if you want to just focus on not even the entire paw, just the claws. Just try and focus on, let's do that, let's focus on just the claws. And again, you're not going to see anything, because it's a phantom shift, unless you're, like I said, extremely clairvoyant. So you're just going to sit here, and it actually does help to be quite still, because whatever position that you have it in, if you leave it in that position, it's a lot easier than if you start moving it, because a lot of times when people start moving for whatever reason, right when they're just starting out, right when they're just starting to feel something, they start moving too soon, then that the feel of that phantom shift is going to actually go away, and then they sometimes have to start all over. So it's the same with physical. It's easier to stay still than it is to move. So you're just kind of gonna sit here and wait. And really, it's best if it's in a relaxed position, not held up in the air like that. So I'm gonna put it down, and then once it gets to where it really feels like something, then I might bring it back up again. But for right now, I'm gonna put it in a comfortable position, because it wasn't comfortable. If something's not comfortable, it's gonna be like a big brick wall. You're gonna be fighting that uncomfortableness, and it's just gonna take longer, if not prohibit it, completely. So it has to be, something that is can feel comfortable for quite a long time, because you may have to be especially the first few times you do it, you may have to sit here for, I don't know, 30 minutes. If you've got a pose that you have to stay still for 30 minutes until you feel something. Some people haven't opened that door yet. Sometimes it takes a while. Some people feel something almost right away, but then they can't get any bigger than the little tiny bit that they feel. So they got the door cracked, but they don't have it wide open. And you're trying to get it wide open before you stop. Ideally, you want to get at least that far to where you've felt something, but ideally you want to have a full phantom shift of something before you move on to something else. So to a certain extent, if you're not in the right mindset, it makes it a lot more difficult. If you're extremely distracted with stress, with fatigue, with whatever, with racing thoughts, it's going to make it that much more complicated to do something like this and actually not have all those things distracting you. If you have a headache, if you have a hangover, whatever it is, do this in a time where in a place where you know that you can focus without being completely pulled away with some sort of distraction, either internal or something external in the environment. Either way, you want to have just a nice little quiet place to kind of do this. So I'm now trying to go past just the claw and into the rest of the paw. So I've got mostly the claw ready, but I don't have and sometimes, I tell you this, sometimes people who are sensitive touch-wise, people who are clairvoyant tactily, you have different types of clairvoyance, and people who are clairvoyant tactically will sometimes be able to feel. They can feel the energy. It feels like a little buzz, or just feels like something's there. Have you ever been blindfolded and a friend came up to you, try to sneak up on you on purpose, or something, or maybe you're not blindfolded but your back's turned and they're being really quiet, and all of a sudden you feel something right there, and then you go to look and somebody is like right there. Like, ever been in pitch dark, and a friend tries to be funny and sneak up on you in pitch blackness, and you can just start to feel something. Even when they're not actually touching you, you can start to feel their finger getting ready to tap you. That's kind of what it feels like when they can tactically reach out and feel that phantom shift. So like I said, it's not entirely not physical, but it's also not physical. It's very different. I've not got a complete paw yet, but here we go. Okay, so some people can see something, not many people are going to see anything, like unless you're clairvoyant, you're not going to see anything. So got the claws pretty good, except for my thumb, which the camera can't see anyway, but that's basically what it is. And it's not a very good one because it's not complete, but it's enough that I at least got the 4 claws there. So it's enough for the video.